Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Halo in Review podcast series. This is a limited run of about 10 episodes of a long form discussion reviewing each and every Halo game in chronological order. Last time we did a review and in depth discussion on Halo Wars, the first game chronologically in the Halo timeline. And today we're going to be talking about Halo Reach, the, I guess, very contentious Halo game. Some people love it, some people hate it. But once again, we have Hosty returning to talk to us about Halo Reach again. Hosty, how are you?
Is this because of Reach?
Because of Reach?
Hello. I'm doing pretty well. I'm ready for another episode of this shedderful game.
I don't think Halo Reach is part of the cringe compilation, but a lot of people don't like Reach. You ever seen that meme where it's like rotating about the last released Halo game, the current Halo game, and then like two Halo games prior to that, where people are like, it's aged pretty well, and then they're like, this is the worst thing ever. The previous one was better. That it was something else, saying like, this was quite good in retrospect. Have you ever seen that meme?
Yes, the most recent game is always the worst, and the oldest is always the best.
Uh,
Obviously,
that's right.
that's how that works, right?
That's right.
Some of them haven't aged that well. Halo Reach is one of those that has aged pretty well, I think.
I
I
agree.
mean, we're
I
we're
agree.
talking about like a 11-year-old game now. Just about in a couple months here, but
Yeah, the game originally released on Xbox 360 exclusively September 14th, 2010, and we waited 9 long years for it to come to Steam. Actually, we'll get into the fun facts later, but Halo Reach is the first-person shooter Halo game to come to Steam. We saw Halo Combat Evolved come on disc to PC, and then Games for Windows Live saw the release of Halo 2, but not to Steam. And then it technically got a third release as well. It came to the Xbox Series S and X with the upgrade that brought 120 frames per second. That was on November 17th, 2020, but that's kind of a minor upgrade. Really, the big one was when it came to MCC and Steam on December 3rd, 2019. Hosty, let's go over the development and the critical reception of Halo Reach. You want to kick it off?
yeah, absolutely. So the game was originally developed by Bungie, and then 343 took over, overseeing the creation of DLC like the Defiant Map Pack. You have Combat Evolved Anniversary that was also released with it gave another map pack on a disc. The overall reception of the game was positive. I feel like that's not a thing now because you have people that started on 3 or started on Reach, and that's their golden game.
Mm-hmm.
But IGN thought when it came out, it was a 9.5 out of 10. GameSpot said the same thing, and Metacritic said a 91 out of 100. So we're looking at about an A plus here, for most of these, which is pretty good overall.
Yeah,
But I don't. I still hear so many people just always talking just absolute garbage about the game.
I
E-
think that at the time when Halo Reach came out, it was a really unique time in gaming because Call of Duty was really in 2010 just really getting going with it being like a cultural movement where nowadays when Call of Duty comes out, every game gets out of its way when it releases, and people will buy only two games a year, and that's Madden or FIFA and Call of Duty. And they'll just play those games all the time. And in 2010, Call of Duty was really just getting going. I think it was during the Modern Warfare trilogy and Black Ops, and all of those great games. And so there weren't really a whole lot of good FPS shooters online back then. Nowadays, there's a ton. So I think with the quantity, it has changed people's opinions of the game over time. But I mean, I agree with the critics. I thought Reach was fantastic.
yeah, especially for its time because it was a little bit ahead of itself in some ways I think because now we have sprint in basically every Halo game including Infinite coming out. Um, but they just added it in as an armor ability. Now, are in contrast to the game before it, Halo 3, Halo 3 had pickup armor, like armor abilities basically, where it's a one-time use equipment. Whereas in this game, you start with it as like a loadout system, more of like a Call of Duty setting, but the game had set loadouts for you to choose whenever it started.
Right.
So let's get into those fun facts, shall
Okay.
we?
Yes. Let's do it.
All
So
right, all right.
we I think a lot of people know this, but maybe not everyone. Halo Reach is the last Halo game to be made by Bungie. So this was really big news back in the day when Bungie said that they no longer wanted to make Halo games and they wanted to be an independent studio again. Microsoft famously said that they'll let Bungie walk away from Microsoft Studios, be an independent developer like they wanted, but the cost was is that they had to leave Halo behind. Microsoft would retain ownership of the Halo IP, and Bungie agreed. And so Microsoft then created 343 internally, and that's who continues the Halo series today. So that was a pretty big thing back in the day. That was like the big news around the block was that Bungie was leaving, and we didn't know for years what was next. And of course, now we know that that was Destiny. So I thought that
Yeah,
was an interesting piece of news.
owned by Activision for a while.
Oh,
So they left Microsoft's hands and went into the hands of Activision.
yeah,
Oh man,
uh,
what a play! And they're
horrible.
finally independent now. But yeah,
They are. So it took them what 7 or 8 years, but they finally became fully independent, like what they wanted.
yep,
But well, hopefully, and I think this is another conversation for another episode. But I think that's
yeah,
really done some great things for Destiny.
yeah. And we need to get on that and play it sometime.
Absolutely. So
Um,
Halo Reach really messed up the lore with the Fall of Reach novel.
my God,
Have you read the novel Hosty Fall of Reach?
it's a bit different. Yeah, it's been a couple years since I've read it, but I have read it before.
Because I'm going to spoil the ending of Reach because everyone's had 11 years to play it now. But
Absolutely.
Cortana was something like Cortana was with Master Chief outside of Reach when Reach exploded in the novel. Isn't that right?
There's, I know there's, yeah, I know there was some Cortana drama, with her going to the Pillar of Autumn and immediately lifting off because they were, John and all that like Blue Team were fighting on Reach during that time. Um, it it doesn't make sense lore wise because one has to retcon the other, and it's never really like specifically explained by 343 which one is the real one, but we'll just have to go with both, I guess.
Right.
You know, alternate timelines. At this point in the game, there were two timelines, and this is how it actually happened. So
And
it's like what Star Wars does.
that's right. That's right. Uh, what about Sprint?
God, oh my God. So I'm one of those people that thinks that sprint doesn't need to be into the game. I
Oh,
understand. Yes. So I understand sprint being in campaign. I completely support that. It needs to be in the campaign. It'll help since it's going to be an open, like at least an infinite. It's going to be an open world game. Some of these games you have long pauses in, like with open world. You have long pauses in between engagements. I feel like it's needed to have sprint in at least a campaign. Now multiplayer, I liked the more Doom feel that it had, where you can shoot at all times. You're going to be traversing the map, and you don't need to be sprinting away. If you made a wrong jump, you can't just sprint away. You have to basically accept the consequence of you messing up and die. I like that, but then again, I'm a bit of an older FPS player, so I know a lot of people like the sprint mentality of like sprint into combat and then shoot immediately, die, and then sprint back into combat. But
yeah.
I think it slows down the game a little bit and makes you play more decisive. Like, oh my gosh, I can't push out because I can't sprint out. I have to walk slowly into combat, into an engagement where I could get caught out by like a sniper, if I don't play my like cover right or anything like that. Um I feel this specifically on In Reach, the remake of Pit. where in MLG for a little bit they had a remake of Pit, and it's so like if you turn on like sprint for that map, it is so fast. If you take sprint off, it plays like normal Pit. The time from spawn to center is the same, but uh, uh,
Interesting.
it's a I guess for younger players, I would say sprint is okay, but I feel like it just doesn't fit the sandbox as well.
Right.
It wasn't compensated until you got to like Halo 4, where they fixed that problem. Because not all people have sprint. It's an armor ability. Some people have armor lock or jetpack, which they do in their own way create a way to get away from the combat. But I feel as if they should have gone the equipment route and made it a one-time use. You burn that entire bar of sprint, where you have to cool down again, then that's it. It just goes away, and then you'd have to go pick it up again or something like that.
Right. It,
Um,
I actually think that sprint belongs in Halo. I think it's an evolution of not necessarily. I guess partly the genre. We see almost every shooter now have some sort of sprint mechanic, but
yeah,
I actually think the balance between using sprint and not using sprint, the cost and benefit of using sprint in Halo 5 was done perfectly because your shields don't
yeah,
recharge when you're sprinting. But you also do have the benefit where you can do like that sprint slam thing in Halo 5 as well.
yeah.
I thought sprint belonged in Halo, but this is the first time sprint was included in a Halo game, and I maybe like all things when it's introduced for the very first time in a game series, it's a little awkward, and I think that's a great way to categorize sprint in Halo Reach. Is it's a little awkward.
It completely split the player base when it came out.
It
Honestly,
it did, but
like you have like the older players who played the playlist that didn't have sprint in it, and then you have everyone else.
right, right.
So
Well, clearly that may have done some good for the game because the beta had over
hmm
2.7 million players. That's over 4 times what happened with Halo 3 beta with 820,000. And I remember playing the beta in Reach, and I remember you're playing on was it Roundhouse, and just having a blast.
Powerhouse. Yeah,
Powerhouse.
it was yeah. So it was Powerhouse. I think they had Zell. I don't think they had Zell. I don't remember. They had two maps.
Wasn't the other one
Um,
sword based? Maybe.
no,
Mm.
maybe you may be right. I don't remember the other map, but they had that, and then halfway through the week they had Invasion.
Yeah, that's
My
right.
guy, that was a life changer. Like, whenever I started playing Invasion like in the beta, I was like, this is gonna change how Halo is played forever, and it did. You see you see Warzone Assault now in Halo 5, which is like a weekend thing now, which kind of surprises me because it's just like Invasion. And then Invasion itself was incredible. I really wished that when they added like 343 added it back into Steam that they balanced it a little bit more. I'll get into that entire rant later with my dislikes about the game, but um seeing that beta for the first time, being able to, go through it completely, that beta was honestly already crisp when it came out. Like it felt like an almost finished game, whereas some of the the past betas did not.
Right.
So
Uh, uh, uh,
that was crazy.
I I have fond memories of Invasion. We can get to talking about that later, and I think
Mhm.
because there were so many features that Halo Reach offered, they had really great theater mode and Forge and Firefight got improved and all of these things. But what's interesting is the next fun fact is Halo Reach did not outsell its predecessor, which was the first time in the series that that's happened. And I
Mm.
actually think that this has now been the case with every Halo game before it, where the series peaked in sales with Halo 3, and then Halo Reach did not outsell Halo 3. I don't think Halo 4 outsold Halo Reach. I could be wrong about that. And we all know Halo 5 did not outsell
No.
Halo 4.
No. So you're right. At every like main Halo game past that, like Halo 4 did not outsell Halo Reach. Halo 5 did not outsell Halo 4. Halo 5 is actually the second least sold, third least sold on the entire list. So,
I'm assuming Halo Wars 2 is the least sold of the whole
no,
series.
because Halo Wars 2's numbers were never officially released.
Oh, well, that's great.
Yep.
So well, you know it's
So,
horrible if they don't do that because they would have said it if it was something to brag about. You know what I mean?
exactly.
If
Yeah.
if it sold 10 million copies, you're not gonna not say that.
Mhm.
Last fun fact, Hosty, is Halo Reach. I said at the top of the show was that it's the first Halo FPS to come to Steam, which I find it to be hilariously ironic because Combat Evolved was a PC on disc release, and then Halo 2 is Games for Windows Live release. But neither one of those came to Steam, and 343 decided to do the release of Master Chief Collection on PC chronologically, and that just started with Halo Reach. If you want the first Halo game that ever come to Steam, technically, is the Spartan Assault and Spartan Strike, but I don't count those. And then it's Halo Wars, and then it was Halo Reach.
It's the first FPS, Halo FPS.
Right, and I think it was smart that they did it that way because, a lot of people care about Halo coming to PC, and I think Halo Reach was a great way that a lot of people played Reach because it sold really, really well. I think you said over 12 million copies, if I'm not mistaken. And so, that was a lot of people that played it back in the day that want to return to Halo Reach when it came to Steam. And then ending it with Halo 4, I think a game that a lot of people just do not like. And ending it kind of like that where people are already satisfied with that collection, I think was really, really smart. And then, right after Halo Reach, you get to the nostalgia trip that's Halo CE. So, but the improvements that they did was just so good when it came to Steam. Getting rid of the motion blur, 120 frames per second on the new consoles. Just you could tell that when you play Halo Reach on PC or even on Xbox One, and then you go back and you play the 360 release, I mean, man, it is a huge step between those two releases.
You don't realize when you're playing it back then in 2010 how gritty and how like polygony, I guess that's the way to explain it, but like it looks so not aging well. It's like it's not like milk like some of the games, but
it's rough around the edges.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly.
I kind of visualize the PC release of Halo Reach as like what I remember the 360 version is or was. You know what I mean? Like, how your mind, when you think of a game, like, oh, the graphics of this game weren't that bad, and then you go and you play it, and you're like, oh, this is horrible. How could I have done this for years and years and years? Like, if you go back and play those old 360 Call of Duty games, for example, you're like, how did people do this with the really cheesy explosions and sound effects and all these things? And gaming has come a long way, and I think that the improvements 343 has done to Reach is really, really welcome.
It's like when you go back and you play Halo 3 and then you look at Lord Hood and
Yes.
you cringe inside whenever you see that picture of it.
With those eyes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just for later, I'm gonna send you a JPEG to show everybody whenever you actually show that part. There you go.
Great, thank you.
But yeah, now you get to see that in our DMs forever.
That's right.
So.
That's right. Well, let's move on to the next piece of the show. We're going to go through our favorite memories, our favorite missions, the cringe compilation moment, and positives and negatives of the game. Haas, do you want to start out with some of your favorite memories of Halo Reach?
Sure. Oh my gosh. I can say it right.
You can say it. It's fine.
Okay. The absolute living shit out of it. I remember distinctly coming home every single day during high school, playing it every single day, and then going to bed at like 12, waking up, going to school, coming home, and doing it again. So and I would always do my homework right before. So I did that, but yeah, it basically every single day. And I remember this is the first game that all of my friends played.
Mm-hmm.
So every like Friday, Saturday night, we would go out and go to a friend's house. Everyone would bring their Xboxes. We would have like 4 Xboxes there, all get together, all 6 of us, and just play Invasion. We do raids now, thankfully, because there was 6 of us. But this game was like our game until even past Halo 4 for a little bit. We still played Invasion. Um, then my next memory would probably be joining a very old clan who's not really around too much anymore, was UEG. And I remember winning like 4th place in their Mongoose tournament, which was fantastic. But like the whole community back then was just so connected. There was like so many niche groups of players back in the day. Like you would see Reach Clan kids everywhere. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have a lot as well. I mean, I have very similar memories of Reach. Reach came out when I was in high school, and this was really the first game that we used that really started a tradition, which was my house, my parents' house was the place where it had enough room to have all of my friends come over and we could comfortably play Halo together. And we could always play on Xbox Live in a party chat or whatever, and we did, during the weekdays. And yeah, that's totally fine. But there was, I feel bad for the young kids today because they never got to experience the joy of like you getting out of
Oh my
high
gosh,
school
yeah.
and like you all run home. And for me, I would like go grab the extra TVs in the house and we would set them up side by side. And then you would eventually see all my friends' cars pull into the driveway. And they would have their Xbox and their controllers. And we would hook up and we would have, it was 4 of us and we would play Halo Reach. And then, we would play till dinner time. We would, get a pizza delivered and then play until like 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's just so much fun. And
Yeah.
there's really, and there still has not been anything that has kind of emulated that excitement. Even with the later Halo games, it just was not the same. We did it a little bit with Halo 4 and Halo 5, but it was just Halo Reach captured that joy in just such a way. And so my fondest memories were doing something like multi-team. I thought was a fantastic game mode in Halo Reach where there could be 3, 4, 5 teams in a single game, and it would be whether it be Team Slayer or objective game types like uh, I forget the actual name of the game type, but it was Oddball, and there were like 2 oddballs, but like 4 teams, and like everyone
Yeah.
would just be battling it out on Ascension, and it was just so much fun. And I spent countless hours in the Forge world because at,
Oh man.
at the time we were just your jaw hit the floor on the technical achievement of a one Halo map being that big. And we would make everything from Slayer maps to the what I spent most of my time on was making racetracks and just obstacle courses for your warthogs and your mongoose with shortcuts and obstacles to overcome and fusion coils falling from the sky and all these sorts of things. And so I had
Yep.
fond memories of Forge mode. And lastly was acquiring the inclement weather armor ability. That's where you have like the thundercloud and
Yeah.
lightning. It was kind of like you went Super Saiyan 2 in Halo, kind of. And I remember the credit system in Reach, and I think it was like 2 million credits.
It
And
was.
I
Which
re-
is like 10% of the way to Inheritor,
that's
which is nuts.
that's right. And I remember I saw a guy for the first time using it in an online game, and I turned to my best friend and I said, "I'm not gonna buy a damn thing in the credit system until I get inclement weather." And I kept to my word. It took me like a year, but I got inclement weather, and I was so proud to get that thing. And I think what's so cool about that unlockable system at the time was this is before the invention of microtransactions, right? And I'm so glad that if something like this existed today, that there would be like no way to buy it, you know? Because like someone, I bet you if like another game had something this cool in it, they would just say, or you could just buy it for $5, and then like
Yeah,
everyone would just do that, and that would just ruin the excitement of the progression of acquiring this thing. And
and going
it's
off that, so one thing I did notice in the Halo Infinite like multiplayer reveal is he did specify single source, meaning that there's only one way to get certain items. So I think they're trying to enforce that. Like, you don't have to go buy something. You're gonna have to get it through either the credit system. You're gonna have to get it through buying it, which is honestly kind of nice. Um, I feel like that's a great way to do it.
yeah, it's a visual representation of the quote unquote hard work that you put
Mhm.
into obtaining this item, and it's completely cosmetic and has no impact on gameplay. But it just goes to show you, like, hey, that person right there, they spent the time and the resources to complete the challenges, save up their credits and get this really expensive thing. And
Yeah.
it was always something I was proud to have on my Smart, even if that increased like how much of a nerd I was by tenfold. I I still loved it, and I mean, I agree with you. I think the Halo, what made Halo Halo, was still present in Halo Reach, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh,
it still had its identity, and it was still a blast to play and lose countless hours to.
oh yeah, and I feel like that was the main feel for Halo is getting into, you have campaign. Okay, that's cool. But when you get into the multiplayer and then the custom games, like that's where Halo really shines. Like I remember Halo 3 customs and then jumping into Halo Reach customs, you're like blown away. Like you have Omega slip and slide, you have all of the race maps that you can do,
Mm-hmm.
the crazy infection maps you would see,
Yep.
even like the invasion maps, like the invasion on Normandy was a really cool one. Um, but just to go off before we get into like the positives and negatives about the game, I had one more thing. So my first Xbox actually died. Like my 360 died of overheating. Like I guess I fried the chip or something in it because I played it for 36 hours straight, getting from Field Marshal to Hero in Reach.
Oh my gosh. Oh
I
dear.
was playing with one of my online friends, and I was like, "Hey man, we're gonna do this today," and he was like, "Okay," and I'm like, "I'm not getting off until I finish it." So it was like on spring break, and I just played through it, and then 2,000 credits before Hero, and my Xbox just dies, and I lose that account.
What was it, the slim, or did you have the fat one?
I had the Elite, so the black one.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
Yep.
I I eventually went to a slim. Um, I don't think the slim consoles were out by the time Reach launched. Maybe it was right around that time. I forget
Mhm.
now. But I played Reach mostly on my slim, and that was when you could like install the game to your machine
Yeah.
to make sure it didn't sound like a jet engine taking off. And yeah, that's really unfortunate. I've heard similar stories with like the disc burning because it was being used so much.
Yeah.
And but another thing I think was a nice little touch in Reach that we don't even see in any game anymore. I don't know why people do this, by the way. It really makes me ill. But it had the player count, and it
Yeah.
was. I don't
Where'd
think
that
we.
go?
I don't think we knew how well we had it when you would look at the player count and it would say like 8 million people online or 4 million people online. I mean, that's an absurd amount of people. And I think that we don't see player counts in games anymore because maybe they're scared to show like how few the numbers are because it's not a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
You know,
Like Halo Wars even showed it. And
yep.
this day, like it's locked now on the 360. So you can see back in the day, when they shut down like the updating for that server, it just locked at 5,000 players and it will never move again.
Oh, for mine it says 975 actually.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's weird.
Uh, it, And it used to even tell you like how many people were like individual playlists. I thought that was just a genius move.
Yeah.
I think it's because like if they were to turn it on, say for a Master Chief Collection, people would be appalled because it would say there's only 4,000 people online. You
Yeah.
know, so
And sometimes there is only 4,000 people online. It's not like Halo's a really popular game right now, you
right.
know? And the players know that.
I don't mean to trash MCC, but not a lot of people play it. Contrary to
Mhm.
popular belief, not a lot of people play it. But let's move on. Let's talk about our favorite missions in the game. What's your favorite mission?
I'm gonna say hands down Exodus. The only reason I say that is because, you know, Noble Six just had his first heartache. He just lost. Yeah, he just lost. Big boy. Georgie. You know, Jorge.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's right.
Jorge. And he just launches back down to Earth, and then he has to regroup with all of his friends. And you're all alone, and you can hear the UNSC chatter, and there's civilians walking around. That was crazy to me. It felt like you were actually in a futuristic city. It was super multi-level, and there were civilian ships just blowing up, and it actually felt like the Covenant were attacking Reach, unlike in the previous games in like New Mombasa, in Halo 2, or even earlier in Halo Reach. Like I felt like at that moment, like the pair, which would be like um, Exodus and New Alexandria, both of those really make it feel like you're you're losing, or
Right.
this game is gonna be sad. I'm sorry. Like, there wasn't really much vehicles used in that until the very end, but that's not really what I was worried about. Like, I didn't want a lot of like, it was mostly just gunplay, and that's fine with me. I know Halo a lot of times, like you have some missions that we're going to talk about later, like the Covenant or the Ark, where it's a mix of both and you get a little bit of everything. But I feel like this mission alone just hit, you know.
It did. And
Um,
I think
it
Exodus
feels different.
is the only level that features the brutes. Is that correct?
Is it?
I could be
There,
making all
there
these
are
things up. I really
there are
could.
brutes in it, but I feel like there's brutes in other parts of the missions.
You're
Like
probably
I
right.
know, yeah, I feel like there are more brutes, like either on the package, yeah, yeah, on the package, or
Maybe it's the first time you see them in Reach.
it is the first time you see them in Reach. That is correct.
Okay.
So,
I'll stop
but
making things up.
it's okay. We all do that.
So my favorite mission was Pillar of Autumn because I like the tension towards the end. The you got to deliver the package to Cutter or K to Keys. I'm so used to saying Cutter as the captain.
Captain Cutter.
That's right, to Captain Keys, and you could just tell that there was all this tension that the fate of humanity really rests on you delivering Cortana, and they didn't. I think they did a great job of having a less is more with the way that you go about delivering the package, and then you got to get on the Mac cannon, and we see the death of other members of the team, and they were able to recreate and get the same voice actor for Keys at the end, and he says, "Good luck to you too, Spartan." And when Noble Six that says that he was not going to join him, Keys knew that meant it was a death sentence. And there was just a lot of power behind that mission, and I thought there was a lot of variety there, and I love that you at that point in time you knew that you had lost, like
Yeah.
there was no way you're going to change the outcome of the planet Reach, but yet you were still fighting knowing the outcome because that's who Spartans are. And I just thought that was a really strong moment in the campaign. I thought the game had a great emotional connection with the player because you already know the end of the game at the beginning. It tells you at the
Yeah.
end. And to see it kind of come full circle and the speech about Noble Six by Cortana. And if you're playing on Legendary, you can see the Master Chief Easter egg in there too. It was just so good. So good.
I think my favorite part about that entire like sequence is definitely that Mac cannon. Oh my
Yes,
gosh. You feel so powerful, but then you play it on lasso and you're like, I'm weak.
that's right.
And then on easy, you're just like unlimited power.
I love too that Bungie thought of how many people would play that mission, because if you played in co-op, they conveniently leave a Spartan laser there
Hmm.
for your buddies to help you out as well. I thought that was such a great touch.
It's like, oh, you know, they're
You
thinking of your friends.
right, your friends are not just going to stand there. They can do something to
Yeah.
help out.
So nice.
What's the cringe compilation moment for Halo Reach?
There's a lot of cringe in this game.
Oh dear.
I will say, cat driving, first of all.
Okay.
Never let her drive your vehicles. You give her like a minute and she'll drive you off the edge of any map. It's incredible. Like even maps that don't have edges, just you're gone. You're dead.
Right.
Yep. It makes no sense. You fly into the air and hit a kill box. You know, never let her drive. And then I will say the grenade launcher. I thought I was gonna be so good with it, and half the time I was killing myself with it rather than killing other people because I would ricochet it around a corner
Right.
and then it would just come back and shoot me with it.
And then your
Oh
enemy
man.
runs away, and then it's just showing the countdown timer, and the guy goes suicide.
Basically, and you just cry as you have to wait all 10 seconds. Um, I would say too many times using my entire. So, looking back, I was like, okay, sniper's really good at shredding vehicles, right? But I would use like 6 shots on a scorpion or something, and that scorpion probably didn't even get 6 kills,
Right.
and that sniper could have gotten 6 kills.
Right.
Looking back at that, I'm like, yes, it makes sense, but at the same time, why take the easy way out and absolutely strip one person with an entire sniper, whereas you could just shoot him with DMRs. God, DMRs are so powerful too.
I was really
Um,
petty with the sniper in Halo Reach because everybody knows who this person is. Everybody knows someone who's this person. Where someone goes out of their way and sprints to the sniper and just camps in one spot, and then like knows exactly when the sniper is going to respawn and just camps around the sniper and snipes the entire time, right? Like they are they are tracted through dimensions to the sniper rifle. And so what I would do to be petty is I would go out of my way to eliminate them, and when I was done, I would literally take, because I knew they would come for me as soon as they respawn. Right,
mhm.
I would literally, if it was within a close amount of time, I would be by their body. I would pick up the sniper and then shoot all the remaining bullets into their corpse. So like,
Incredible.
yes, because I've never been good at sniping, and there
Mhm.
were too many times where I would try and like counter snipe them, or snipe them as they were trying to get revenge, and they would
Yeah,
always achieve that goal. So to make it easier for all parties involved, that's what I would do.
I will say, the people that cross through dimensions to get to the sniper at the beginning of the game, you described like half a BTC right there.
Oh,
So,
I see.
so yeah, that's like half of them there. I will say, playing with them from personal experience, do not call out when you're on a killing spree.
Oh,
Just don't. You'll
okay,
get rocketed from across the map by your teammates.
gotcha. Okay, good to keep in mind.
Yeah, they do that a lot. I'm trying to think. What else was cringe? What do you got?
I have armor lock. I actually really enjoy using armor lock because again
Ew.
I love being petty, and I would just run to someone that was going to punch me and immediately go into armor lock and then come out and then punch them, and then I would win that engagement. But there'd be too many times I would forget other people would have armor lock, and usually it involved me trying to sword someone, and it would go through the motion of the animation of hitting them with the sword, and there was nothing I could do, and they would kind of hit me with the good old "no you," or the funniest time is even if you lose is when you both have armor lock, and you go to like punch someone, they go into armor lock, and then you hit them in armor lock, they come out of armor lock, they go to punch you, you go into armor lock, and then you come out of armor lock, and then you like punch each other, and it's like a mutual. Um, there's a lot of cringe with armor lock. I will say I don't hate armor lock. There's too many times where it would ruin, like a killing spree, a killing frenzy, or you're one kill away from getting a particular challenge or commendation, and that ruins it.
You went from Dr. 90 to Dr. Petty in that little
Yeah.
monologue you had going on there.
Oh, that's. I'm totally changing my Discord name to that. Totally.
Dr. Petty.
Dr. Petty.
Oh man, Armor Lock was just awful. I avoided all playlists that had Armor Lock in it
Oh,
just because I
really?
hated it. Yeah, except for Invasion, that was probably the only exception. But other than that, I was like, no, this is not allowed. I'm so glad that when 343 took over, they updated like Big Team and stuff, where there was no Armor Lock. Like it was like Jetpack, Hologram, and Sprint is
Yeah.
all you got.
The one I
That was
was
amazing.
best at was jetpack by far. I was so good at jetpack. Um, I love having air battles like on sword base. You jump off the bridge and use your jetpack, and like the other guy is using jetpack as well, and you get a melee while you're using jetpack. I was really good with jetpack. Hologram was fine. I really like using hologram because everyone would fall for the hologram every time, and it was just hilarious to watch them fall for it.
People
Um,
still do it, so
they still do, and I think the one I was worst with was probably Invis because I get impatient and I would reveal myself.
oh yeah. In the invis in this game is pretty nerfed too compared to the others. This was like the first game where invis got nerfed.
Right.
Where if you're moving around a lot, there's less invis, and they added like the radar jammer in it too, which was kind of weird. I personally didn't like it because it let everyone know that there's someone invis nearby. It didn't really let everyone know like why is my radar messing up. They could have added like maybe 2 or 3 red dots and that would have been it.
Yeah.
That would have been good enough. But adding like 10 or 20 red dots was a bit overkill.
I mean, it was egregious. You clearly knew when there was
Yeah.
Invis nearby. Yeah, I agree.
hmm
Let's.
Um,
What about the positives for Halo Reach? Just making a quick list of what you enjoy the most.
um, I would say the things that really made Halo Reach, like for the better, was holy Forge. Like Forge was amazing. It exploded from what it was in Halo 3. It I could spend hours or even days working on maps now, whereas and they added in the new options like the fixed phased or normal,
Right.
which were options that you had to like glitch the game in Halo 3 to get possible.
Right. You had to
Um
in Halo 3, you would have to put like a crate and then something on it and then delete the crate.
yeah, and then for phasing, you would have to set the object to no, like it spawns when the round starts. Hit no, give it like a 30-minute, not 30-minute, 30-second or 60-second timer, and then place an object in it, wait for it to settle, and then the other object spawns in it, and that's how you do phased. And it would take like 6 or 7 hours to make simple structures, versus in Halo Reach it took like 2 seconds. But I would say along with that came the custom games that came with that amazing new Forge. The big map that came with Forge, which was Forge World, probably the biggest Halo map we've ever seen, besides some of the new Halo 5 Forge maps. But I will argue that it is still the best Forge map.
I agree.
Like it was so big. There's so many different areas for it, and like you want a beach map? Okay, you got a beach. You want an island map? There's an island over there. You want something that's more Forerunner? Well, build it inside of this bunker. You want like a classic Blood Gulch? There you go. You want something on top of a plateau? You got it too. Like
Yeah.
there's so many different areas you could build on. I and then just to wrap it up, I would say that the custom games browser, where you could search and find game types and game modes, or even maps, that was crazy. The game was more focused on fun than competitive. We'll get to that in my dislikes with competitive. Then I would say the incredible amount of Easter eggs that were in the game, and to top it all off, the user interface absolutely slapped. So to just all of those things combined made a fantastic Halo game.
Yeah, I agree. I think Forge World to this day is still the best playground to create, customize, and share. Whatever you could create in Forge World. Because we saw they even like remade Ascension in Forge World, which I thought was so cool. You can also remake Blood Gulch if you want to, and you saw a lot of people take advantage of these predetermined environments and then add their own flair on top of it to make these same areas vastly different depending on who was creating stuff. You'd even see people that made racetracks. That was by far my favorite creation in Forge World, was all of the racetracks. And you see people take it to different environments, and you would see like when it goes to different environments how the track would change. You would have like tight curves in the Forerunner section, and then when it gets to the island, it kind of opens up and it becomes a wider track in some creations. It was really cool.
My favorite was Tour de Forge, if you've ever played that one.
No,
Oh, it was amazing.
I have to fire up my 360 and look, because I downloaded probably 30 or 40 different tracks in my time. And I made some stuff too. It was never all that good, but I thought it was fun. I really like the credit system in Halo Reach. So what I mean by is how you acquire tokens or currency by getting medals. There's challenges too. Halo Reach had a challenge system, which was really something that Call of Duty had started, and Halo kind of copied it for this. But it encouraged you to do different game modes. Like maybe 1 week to get a lot of credits, you would need to play some firefight games, or another week you would need to play some invasion modes, or maybe you needed to play some campaign missions. And for those who wanted to chase items that were a lot of credits, like how I really wanted inclement weather, this would enable a lot of replayability. And I actually thought that they did a great job of rotating different game modes and different tasks to accomplish these challenges. And I always appreciated that because, I would never play the campaign more than 4 or 5 times, but because of the challenge system, I'd be playing the campaign and various missions maybe once a month. And then,
I would even say to go once a week in some cases.
yeah, it was just really cool. It was, you can take out of it of what you put into it. So like you didn't have to do these things, but if you wanted to get your armor faster, that was what you would do. And I loved the customizable armors and voices and effects and all these different pieces that you could really customize your Spartan. I thought that Halo Reach was really the first Halo game that really enabled players to say, okay, this is my Spartan based on my personality, and like this is how I'm going to express it. And in previous Halo games, you just had like a full armor set, and a lot of people had that, and there's only a handful of colors. But Halo Reach just unlocks so many different options. You could even have the mechanical arm that Cat had and all this stuff. And I thought that was cool. And it also took a little bit of preservation into account as well. If you were to click on someone's profile, and I wish games still did this, and they never do, but when you were to click on a profile, you could see someone's progress in, say, Halo 3, and it would tell you like what date they first played the Halo 3 campaign, and like what date they started playing the Halo ODST campaign, and how far they got into firefight in ODST. I thought that was just so cool. It was just such an easy thing, but rewarding to look at someone and say, okay, they're invested in this franchise. And no one does that anymore. I don't know why. I thought I think that's easy to do, and it's cool.
Yeah, like there's so many things, even like for newer games like MCC on PC, you have like there are hundreds of things they could add to a profile and make it very easy to access, like, on the side before they don't even have pre-game or really post-game. People just leave as soon as it's done, but that
Y-
you could see what you're playing against. Like, in Halo 3 or in Halo Reach, you would have the pregame where, it showed in and it showed everyone's ranks. It showed everyone's, like, Spartans. It showed their, and you didn't even have to click them. You just scrolled.
Right.
And that was amazing.
I I totally understand why games don't do it anymore because you have people that dodge or they see their opposing team's rank and they just vanish and they quit and all these sorts of things. But Halo Reach really just allowed you to see everything before and after the game started. And you're right, like no games do that anymore. And I wish it did because it kind of takes out half the fun of customizing your character. If no one's going to see what you've done, then really what's the point of doing it?
Hmm.
And Halo Reach really allowed you to do that. And while you're speaking, about all that, the thought came into my mind about the voting system was so good in Halo Reach.
I remember you could, like, veto, like, almost not three times, but you could hit, like, none of the above.
Yeah.
And then if, like, a map even failed, so say somebody had a scratch disk, the game would load into a different set of maps. Like, say somebody, had their disk corrupted and their game crashes if they load on sword base, which was actually very common. Later into the stages of the game, a lot of people didn't have sword base because it scratched off. And the game would be like, oh, content failed. Let's try some more maps. And it would do that like 3 or 4 times, give everyone a chance to look at everything and still vote every single time of what they actually want to play. And if they voted sword base all 3 times, then it would kick that person from the game. Um, so,
That's great.
that was nice because it's like in some of the newer games, if you don't have the map, it will just kick you immediately.
Right.
It'll be like, oh, game failed. Sorry. Have a nice day. And you won't
Yeah.
even know why, which with this system too, you'll be like, oh my gosh, so sword base doesn't work. I can never play on that map. I always have to veto it, basically, or like vote for different maps. It kind of gave a sort of player debugging at the same time as credibility, just like add to the voting system.
I,
So,
I wish games still did this. Not a lot of games do include a veto
hmm.
system, and I think Halo Reach did it perfectly. It would present you with normally three options for
Hmm.
a lobby to pick. And, that was back in the day where not everyone hid behind party chat, where you had still a lot of people in game chat, and you would always hear people like
Oh my
screaming,
god.
like, vote sword base, you cowards, or, whatever the case may be. And um, and then, or, yell for everyone to veto and, all these sorts of things. That was part of the experience too. And it really enabled a little bit of player choice by popularity. And I can understand why it didn't work at MCC because everyone would always vote for Halo 3 in MCC. But I hope that we see this sort of a format return for Infinite because I think, and other games too, like I think was it one of the Call of Duty games, it would present one option and then you would just need the majority to veto it and it would just randomly select a different option. And I think,
Yeah, Halo 3 did that as well.
yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
just enabling a little bit of player choice there, I think is fine. And I think it's really unique. You don't see that a whole lot anymore. But yeah, I love the voting system in Halo Reach. And I agree with you too. What you said earlier, the main menu is just so good. Um, Opening up Halo Reach for the first time and just getting the incredible soundtrack start playing. And it was animated in the background as well. It was just so good. And uh, maybe I'm just old. Maybe I'm a boomer, but that era of games, I think did UI so good, and now we see
Yeah.
flat, basic, and maybe even the UIs are functional today, maybe more than they were back then. But there's a little bit of an experience behind the UIs that we see, particularly in
Mhm.
Halo Reach, and even some in Halo 3 and Halo Wars, I would say as well. But I miss that sort of thing. I think MCC did a good job of trying to emulate that a little bit with the animated backgrounds, but it's not meet uh,
Yeah.
Reach. I think Reach did it the best in the whole series.
Yeah. I personally did not like MCCs um when it first came out and
Mm-hmm.
still currently. But
Oh,
yeah, I think they could do a lot more with it than what they have.
I
I
agree.
get that they're a limited team, it's a live team and they're getting ready for Infinite, so they're kind of learning on the job, but I feel like they could still one up it. There's a lot that can be done with the MCC UI.
We'll
So,
have an episode dedicated to the Master Chief Collection, but I
mhm,
wish you could, and maybe you can. I don't know, but I wish you could pick like a particular Halo game. Like I would totally just put Halo 4 soundtrack on with like Halo 2 animated background.
mhm.
I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Um, and lastly, I really enjoyed Invasion. I didn't play Invasion all that much because I was so invested into multi team
Mhm,
and Social Slayer were my favorite playlists. But I thought Invasion was just a really unique idea. It was something that had never been done before. And I think the way that they pinned the Spartans versus the elites and the objectives with some Slayer spun on top of it in the different areas and loadouts. I think they just really knocked it out of the park. And I don't think that this has been topped in Halo ever since it was done in Invasion. And it's kind of sad that it's been forgotten about in MCC. They kind of like half care about it, half don't. And
mhm.
I know not a lot of people play Invasion in MCC, but it was fantastic when it came out. Absolutely fantastic.
Yep. All
Uh,
right. Do we want to get into the things we hate about Reach?
Yeah, the things we hate. That makes us
Okay.
cringe.
Well, I see our first ones there. So,
Yes, indeed.
Bloom, absolute garbage.
Horrible.
Oh my gosh. Bloom is not in a Halo game. Get that out of here. And I can see even it looks like to me in some of the guns in Infinite have it still.
Oh dear.
I'm I don't know 100%. It looked like it from what we were watching in the multiplayer reveal, but like I think maybe one of the guns has it. It may be the AR. I don't remember. It is the Reach AR, so that would make sense, but I will say some guns need it, most do not. Like the assault rifle, it makes sense because if you don't do that, you'll get another Halo 3 assault rifle or a uh, a Halo CE assault rifle where it does basically no damage. It's just a bullet hose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which they kind of did that correctly with the SMG, but then kept the SMG in and then put the AR in the next game. um,
Uh.
but guns like the DMR or the like I want to say most of the precision weapons did not need any bloom whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was absolutely nonsense. Like you shouldn't. Yes, timing your shot is its own skill, but that's not what it's about. It's about Halo is more about communicating with your teammates. It just unnecessarily raised the skill ceiling and it lowered it at the same time because players could just spam all five shots and get lucky and all five shots connect. Whereas a player who's carefully timing his shots will he'll hit his target every single time, but he could lose to that player just, you know, praying to RNGesus he kills you faster.
And
So,
and Bloom was really the main reason why that competitive really fell off of Halo.
oh my god. I Reach's competitive was absolute garbage. Oh my gosh. Did you ever play it?
No, I
Oh.
I played a little bit of the MLG game types, but I was
Okay.
really more into it for the humor aspect of Halo.
Hmm.
So I was really a social, big team, multi-team kind of guy.
Okay. Yeah. So the ranking system went by your kill death assist ratio.
Mm.
Yep. So you played basically a certain amount of games per day. So like you had to play 3 games a day. Once you have played 7 games, well, 7 days worth of games in a season. So not only did you have to play 3 games, you had to play 3 games minimum on 7 separate days to get a rank. Um, to get like ranked in it. And not only that, it was based off of your kills, deaths, and assists in those games. And it does not matter in like basically doesn't matter if it was an objective game or not. The objective only slightly contributes to that number. Um, and so you would have players going like 20-0, being at the top of the leaderboard, but not even contributing to any sort of objective or anything, not even winning games, just to get their rating as high as possible. I will say the only redeeming quality they had was that it only took your best 3 games. So, say you play like 20 games in a day, it'll take your top 3 games out of that day and contribute those to your rank online. It was just such a convoluted system than what we have now. Like, I will say Halo Wars 2 is an absolutely broken ranking system, but it's still better than what that was. It made more sense to do CSR and MMR than it did to do this weird ranking system.
Yeah, I
So
miss True Skill.
True Skill is nice. I hope we get something back in some degree. Or if they even go with the Halo 5, Halo Wars 2 ranking system, they need to do some serious revamping of it because there's problems with it.
I'm sure they're well aware of
Hmm.
the community getting mad about, you know, right now people hate squad-based matchmaking or skill-based matchmaking. Um,
Hmm.
I think people. I really don't. I'm not that big of a competitive Halo person. Is the consensus is that most Halo competitive players think that True Skill is the best ranking?
It's kind of divided.
Oh, like everything
Um,
else.
so yeah, basically. So Halo 5 players like the Halo 5 ranking system, but it's the fact that the ranking system for both Halo Wars 2 and Halo 5 don't work with the amount of players that they have. The ranking system that they have in concept only works if there's a large player base, like, a Platinum 4 playing against a Platinum 4, or a Silver 2 playing against a Silver 2. That only works if there's players in Silver or players in Gold, like where you have Halo Wars 2, where you'll find maybe only one person and you'll play against them 5 times
Right.
in ranked, and you know, you'll lose against them once and lose all of the points that you won for your past 10 games, not even against them. You know, it
Yeah.
it only works if there was a lot of players,
It
so they
works when
need to
there's
find a
volume.
fix. Exactly. Whereas these other ranking systems like True Skill and even the Halo Reach ranking system works if there's anybody playing. It doesn't matter how many people are playing, you'll still get, you know, a rank. You'll still get a decent rank, and it won't be dependent on how many people are on the game.
Right.
So, yeah, I will say it purely depends on who you're talking to, because a lot of Halo 5 players like it when it first came out, and now they hate it. Um, and I've never really heard some back talk on the Halo 3 MCC True Skill ranking, or like Halo Wars True Skill ranking, because it works no matter what. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. No, that
it
makes
just
sense.
it does it. Unless you get Smurfs at like the 1 through 10 area, but um, for the most part, it works pretty well.
Um, one of the big dislikes for me, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit as well, just on a different faction, is I didn't like some of the weapons in Halo Reach, and I also didn't like I also didn't like that there was a lack of some weapons. Um,
Hmm.
I, I understand, there's a time and a place for various Halo weapons to appear, but I really miss the battle rifle in Halo Reach. Um, and the DMR is fine. I don't know. I just thought that the BR was sorely missed, and it was interesting to see it return alongside the DMR in Halo 4. There were just some weapons in Halo Reach that just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like what what's that big huge Covenant gun? Is it the plasma cannon or something?
The one that shoots like the plasma grenades.
Yes. What's it
Yeah,
called?
the plasma launcher.
That's it. Horrible. I hated
I
that.
would I'd say it has its own little niche in the actual sandbox, but they kind of botched the sandbox quite a bit because, in this game you have two precision weapons, whereas, you have the burst instead of giving like one a burst weapon and then one a precision, like, between the factions. Because you don't have a burst precision weapon in the game anymore once the BR got rid of, I can't speak right now, it's fine. But once the battle rifle got taken away, you don't have that mid-range burst anymore. As well as the I would say they got rid of the Mauler, so you don't have like a close range weapon anymore for, high damage. They only have the sword now.
Yeah.
They kind of, I would say, any sort of assault rifle assault rifle like weapon for the Covenant, just absolutely botched all of them. The plasma repeater was awful. The plasma rifle was even awful in Reach. There was nothing like no bullet hose on that side that actually did decent damage.
It was really like you had to like pretty much acquire the needler rifle, or there was really nothing that could compare to it. The needler rifle I thought was fantastic because
Hmm.
even if you don't hit all of your shots, you can still get the super combine, and then they can explode, and that would
Yeah,
happen plenty of times.
versus like the BR, it took almost four full shots to the back of the back,
Yeah,
and then you died. Versus that gun, three shots, very fast time to kill. It made a lot more sense.
I actually think the needler rifle is my favorite weapon in that sandbox. Um,
Really?
yeah, I mean, I love that gun.
Hmm.
I think some of the most fun in a horrible way is the grenade launcher. Because sometimes you just shoot it down a hallway and see what you get.
Yeah.
Or on sword base you can shoot it up that airlift and you would get like an overkill. It was great.
Yeah.
I did not like Hosty. I did not like that max rank was like unobtainable. And maybe I didn't play it enough. I think I did play it enough back in the day, but I think I topped out at field marshal, which
Hmm.
when I thought that the top was like general rank grade 4, or did it top at general grade rank 5? I forget, but
It was
um,
one of the two. Yeah.
and then you would see all these people like legends and nobles, and the max rank was inheritors, and just doing the math, it was like absolutely insane to get to max rank. I mean, it was. I mean, maybe I wasn't that good at the game. I didn't get credits as fast as others, but I played the game consistently for years. I mean, past the release of Halo 4, and I mean, I think I didn't get past Field Marshal. So I
Yep.
got Field Marshal, but I didn't get to the what is it after that? Is it Legend or is it Hero? I forget.
Um, After Field Marshal was Hero.
Yeah, so I don't think I ever got to Hero, but um,
Yeah. My thing is that yes, games back then you really want people to grind, and they see an XP grind, and they aren't like, oh, I'm not going to play this anymore. Back then it was, oh my gosh, an XP grind, I have to obtain it.
Right.
Nowadays we see games like Destiny where it's a super grind, and nobody wants to play the game because of the grind. Granted, Destiny's like one of the top 5 games played right now. But that there was no benefit to go past a certain rank. I agree with you in saying that maybe 5 or even 10 million experience was enough, cutting it in half, because then you would have people actually obtain the rank.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that's partly why I love so much the prestige system in Call of Duty, because you can get to max rank, and granted you didn't unlock things just by leveling up in Halo Reach, but
Mhm.
if you were, by the time you were to get to max rank, you would have technically acquired all the things that need to be acquired. And then you could be like, you know what? I'm satisfied with this max rank. I don't need to do anything else. I just want to enjoy the game for what it is. Or you could say, hey, I love this grind starting from 1 to max rank. Let's just do it again and get some extra rewards, just like what Call of
Mhm.
Duty does. And, you would see people in Call of Duty that have tens of thousands of kills but have only prestiged like once. Or you'd see people with the same amount of kills and have prestiged 7 or 8 times. So I think maybe it won't work in the Halo sandbox, but I think that would be quite cheddarful.
Absolutely. It'd be some good old Gouda if you could prestige.
That's
That'd
right.
be nuts. I will say that the way, like, the ranking up in Halo Reach, I guess it did make sense. You're always grinding towards credits because you need to get the best gear possible. Well, the fashion gear. The real end game of Halo Reach was fashion.
Right.
So, um, getting that grind to finish up, that grind finishes significantly sooner than actually reaching Inheritor. So I don't know what to say. Like, they kind of overcompensated with the amount of XP, and they did it again in Halo 5. So
Yeah. I, I, if you were to compare Halo Reach's unobtainable rank to Halo 5's completely unobtainable rank, I would say I would much rather take Halo Reach over Halo 5, because Halo
that's fair.
5's is so astronomically mathematically insane to get to SR 152 that it's like, why should I even waste my time with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a job. It's a full-time job at that point.
It is. So I guess what makes it cool in Halo Reach that there's always something to grind for is also why I dislike it. So maybe my
Mhm.
argument's invalid by that point. Um, but what I will say of a different point is, and this is completely subjective, by the way, but I did not like it, is that I thought that Bungie or 343 by the time that this transitioned were either lazy or overcompensating the vanilla maps that they included in the game with all of these forge maps in multiplayer. It started driving me nuts. And it wasn't because they were bad maps, but it was because the aesthetic was exactly the same. This Forerunner steel beams and bridges and walls placed everywhere, and it just aesthetically was the same thing over and over again. It was like green grass because you were over someplace in Forge World, with all of these gray walls everywhere, and
Yeah.
I just got sick of it. And it didn't matter if the map was good or not. It didn't have any sort of environmental coolness to it. It was always ramps and walls and very rough and very
Yeah.
sharp corners, because the tools did not allow you to design anything beyond that. And as time went on, it just got really old. I mean, all of us love the cage slash uncaged as a Forge World map. That was a fantastic addition, but I just felt like they were getting lazy, because whether it was a community edition or something that 343 slash Bungie made themselves, it was one way to give new maps to players for free, but at the same time, it took away maybe potentially resources to design more vanilla maps into Reach, which were far more better than a lot of stuff we got in multiplayer. Does that make sense? Am I
Yeah.
making sense?
And So I do like how, back then Bungie made those maps to showcase what you could do with Forge in
Right.
in the newer games. But then 343 took that and just absolutely just we're like, "Oh, this works. Let's just do it for all of our new games."
It was just so depressing getting
Yeah.
all of these Forge. I mean, they did some great remakes. Like they remade Ascension of Forge World, which was great.
Yeah.
But it just got exhausting when you would like load up in a Slayer game and there'd be three options and they all showed the Forge World icon. It's
Yep.
just tiring.
Yep.
To piggyback off that point, kind of in the inverse, something I didn't like was that Bungie used almost all of the multiplayer maps in campaign, and I really think that it was forced. I could be wrong, but I feel like where they placed these maps didn't make any sense. It didn't add any sort of expansion to either the mission or the lore of, maybe it was some sort of lore explanation like why we're playing on these maps to begin with. But you would see these missions or I'm sorry, these maps all over the place. Like in Sword Base, I think was maybe the only time that it made sense in a campaign mission, but the rest of them was just kind of cringe. I was like, oh, why is this here? Why is this here?
The whole reflection sequence
Yeah.
that map. Like you just go up an elevator and oh, I'm on reflection, the map.
Uh,
It's like, "Oh, okay, cool," cuz Ivory Tower wasn't in in reach or anything.
I just, you go up and there's no enemies there either, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. You were just kind of going in between
Yep.
stages. And it was like he showed me like, okay, like this is neat. You put this in here, but was this really necessary? Did this make a Halo player be like, wow, look at, that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the television?
Yes.
I feel like that's the reaction they wanted when like you go up the elevator and there's reflection. You know what I
Like,
mean?
wow.
It's just like I couldn't. I really couldn't. That's really the only negative thing I have
Yep.
about the campaign.
Yeah, it felt very forced, and they specifically talked about that in Halo 4 on like some of their reveals for it, and they said, "Yeah, so all of the maps are going to be maps. They're not going to be stuff taken from campaign." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even really care at the time because, I was a little kid and all, but like, I didn't even realize it for a little bit." So, I'm glad you bring that up. Looking back on it now, I really hate that what they were doing with campaign and multiplayer maps because they're just saving resources. It's a cheap way
It
to
adds
cut down
fluff. It
costs.
adds fluff.
Exactly.
I think there's a difference between putting a multiplayer map into campaign and compared to putting a campaign area into multiplayer.
Yeah.
And I think when you take a campaign area into multiplayer, it becomes much, much better than the inverse, where you take something, because Ivory Tower clearly existed in Halo 2 years before Halo Reach. And you could tell that was forced to be put into Halo Reach. So it's just much better the other way around.
Hmm.
Just imagine you're on a campaign mission, you walk up and you're in Zanzibar. You'd be really confused.
Yeah. And they've done that several times in that campaign. So it kind of threw me off like a little bit there. But I think that's all I got for dislikes. It wasn't too much because it was a pretty solid game overall.
Yeah, play it on Game Pass. It's included in Game Pass, actually. It's one of the rare instances where DLC is included in Game Pass. Because technically, Reach is DLC on the Xbox. It's included on both console and PC Game Pass. It's also on Steam. It normally goes on sale quite often, by the way, on all these platforms. And if you have the series consoles, you can play at 120 frames per second, which is so good, Hosty.
That
So good.
when you did you only reminded me of the puffer fish, and you have to add it there now. So
Okay.
yeah, it's free on Game Pass. Go play it.
Yeah, I think this is going to wrap up the end of our show. I'd love to know your thoughts on Halo Reach in the comments down below. Is Halo Reach your favorite Halo game? Is it your favorite Bungie game, perhaps? I'd love to know where you stand on Halo Reach. Maybe you could be the people that do not like Halo Reach. Is totally fine. There's going to be a playlist for all of the Halo in Review podcast episodes that we'll be doing. Once again, the previous episode was on Halo Wars, the RTS game that is one of my favorite games of all time. And I'm sure Hosty agrees. And our next episode is going to be Halo Combat Evolved / Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. So be sure to stay in the know on that episode. I'm not a fan of Combat Evolved. I'm actually going to say that right off the bat. I don't like it.
I can't wait. I can't wait to destroy that port of Anniversary in the next episode.
That they're allegedly fixing?
Something like that.
Or is it Legacy that they're fixing?
Something. I don't know which one they're fixing, but I can't wait. Either way, to rant about CEA in the next episode.
Yeah, we'll be in a state of confusion in that video as well, which is the normal for me, actually. I'm permanently confused. It's a condition. Well, Hosty, once again, thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk Halo Reach with me today.
Of course. As always.
And we will be back very shortly with the next episode. Make sure you check it out. Join the Team Respawn Discord server. And a final plug, if you like Cheddarful short form Halo clips from Team Respawn, check out Team Respawn Shorts. Link to that is down below as well. That's going to do it for us. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you, James.
Bye, guys. Go watch shorts. I have clips in there.
You do.